10 scientists, or 11, or 14 depending on which list you trust. Some dead, some vanished, all with ties to America's most classified research: nuclear weapons, rocket propulsion, aerospace engineering. The FBI is now investigating. A retired Air Force general walked out of his Albuquerque home and disappeared. Here's what we actually know. February 27, 2026, Albuquerque, New Mexico. A retired Air Force Major General, a man who once commanded the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson, walks out of his home. He leaves behind his phone, his prescription glasses, his wearable devices. What he takes with him: hiking boots, a wallet, a .38 caliber revolver, and a red backpack. He had told his family he was experiencing, in his own words, mental fog. As of the time of this recording, William Neal McCasland has not been found, and he is one of at least 10 names on a list the FBI is now reviewing. On April 21st, 2026, the FBI made an announcement that, in any other news cycle, would have led every broadcast in the country. FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed that the Bureau was, quote, spearheading the effort to look for connections between the deaths and disappearances of at least 10 U.S. scientists, engineers, and former military officials. The cases stretched back to 2022. They involved researchers tied to nuclear weapons, anti-gravity propulsion, space nuclear engines, plasma physics, materials science, and intelligence work. Patel said the FBI would be working jointly with the Department of Energy and the Department of War. He said investigators would examine, and these are his own words, connections to classified access and foreign actors. The day before the announcement, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer of Kentucky, alongside Subcommittee Chairman Eric Bullison of Missouri, had sent letters to 4 federal agencies: the FBI, NASA, the Department of Energy, and the Department of War. They were demanding briefings. They wanted answers about scientists, quote, connected to the U.S. nuclear secrets or rocket technology who've died mysteriously, vanished in recent years. The deadline set for the staff-level briefings was April 27, 2026. 4 days before that, on April 17th, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt had already confirmed the administration was, quote, actively working with all relevant agencies in the FBI to holistically review all of the cases together. President Trump himself addressed it publicly. He said he, quote, just left the meeting on the matter. He called the situation pretty serious. He said he hoped it was random. That is the official frame. That is what the government has said, on the record. But the story doesn't begin in 2026. It begins in 2022, in a city called Huntsville, Alabama. June 11th, 2022, Huntsville, Alabama, a city known by another name in aerospace circles, Rocket City, home to NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, home to Redstone Arsenal, one of the most concentrated hubs of U.S. aerospace and defense research anywhere in the country. That day, a 34-year-old researcher named Amy Eskridge died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Eskridge was the co-founder of the Institute for Exotic Science. Her work focused on something most physicists won't touch on the record: anti-gravity propulsion. Her family has affirmed this ruling. That is important to state up front. The ruling is self-inflicted, and her family stands by it. But Eskridge's case is not simple. Before her death, she had alleged to friends, and reportedly to a former British intelligence officer named Frank Milburn, that she was being stalked. She claimed that she was the target of directed energy weapon harassment. According to claims later relayed by Milburn and amplified by Rep. Eric Bullison, Eskridge said she was receiving daily death threats. These are allegations, not findings. The medical examiner ruled, and her family agrees. But her name now sits at the top of a list that the FBI is reviewing. The next name on the list comes a little over a year later. July 30th, 2023, Los Angeles. Michael David Hicks, 59, a research scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Hicks had worked on some of the most ambitious deep space missions of the last 2 decades: DART, the Asteroid Deflection Test, NEAT, Dawn, and Deep Space One. His cause of death has never been publicly disclosed. His daughter has cited pre-existing medical issues. Then, May 12, 2024, Falls Church, Virginia. Matthew James Sullivan, 39, a former U.S. Air Force intelligence officer, a Bronze Star recipient, and according to multiple outlets, a man who agreed to testify before Congress about an alleged legacy UFO program. He never made it to that hearing. The Northern Virginia District Medical Examiner ruled his death an accidental overdose. The substances involved: alcohol, alprazolam, cyclobenzaprine, and imipramine. July 4th, 2024, Los Angeles. Frank Mywald, 61, a principal-level researcher at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He designed instruments for space missions. The cause of his death has never been publicly disclosed. Then the pattern shifts geographically to New Mexico. May 4th, 2025, Anthony Tony Chavez, 79, walks out of his home in Los Alamos, New Mexico, on foot, and he doesn't come back. Chavez was a long-retired former Los Alamos National Laboratory employee. It is important to note he had not held a security clearance in over 20 years. He was 79 years old, but his name was on the list. June 22nd, 2025, Monica Reza, 60, Director of Materials Processing at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Reza was a co-inventor of the nickel-based superalloy called Mondaloy, a material used in rocket engines. She went hiking near Mount Waterman in Angeles National Forest in Los Angeles County. Search teams recovered only one item belonging to her, a beanie. 4 days later, June 26, 2025, Melissa Casillas, 53, disappears from her home in Teos County, New Mexico. Casillas worked as an admin assistant at Los Alamos National Laboratory. Her family told reporters she had lost her clearance due to financial issues. When she vanished, she left behind everything that would normally indicate intent to travel: her vehicle, her purse, her wallet, her phone, and her ID. July 22nd, 2025, Walker County, Alabama, near Huntsville again. A NASA aerospace electrical engineer named Joshua LeBlanc, 29, dies in a fiery Tesla clash. LeBlanc had worked on space nuclear propulsion and on something called the Draco Project. According to reporting from Fox News and News Nation, his vehicle had sat at the Huntsville airport for hours before the crash. He had left his phone and wallet at home. His body was burned beyond recognition. August 28, 2025, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Stephen Garcia, 48, a property custodian at the Kansas City National Security Campus, a facility that manufactures non-nuclear components for U.S. nuclear weapons. Garcia walked away from his Albuquerque home carrying a handgun. He hasn't been seen since. By the end of the summer 2025, the list, though no one was yet calling it a list, included 7 names, 3 deaths, 4 disappearances, spread across Alabama, California, Virginia, and New Mexico, all tied in some way to America's most sensitive scientific and military infrastructure. The fall and winter of 2025 brought 3 more names, and it is here where the cases get genuinely difficult, because some of them have answers. Answers the FBI and federal prosecutors have publicly stated. Answers that are not part of any coordinated conspiracy. December 12, 2025, Wakefield, Massachusetts. A pharmaceutical researcher named James Thomas disappears. Thomas worked at Novartis. His research focused on cancer treatments. For 3 months, no one knew what happened to him. 3 days after Thomas disappeared, on December 15, 2025, a man walked into the foyer of an apartment building in Brookline, Massachusetts, and opened fire. The victim was Nuno Loureiro, 47, the Herman Fischbach Professor of Physics at MIT, the director of MIT Plasma Science and Fusion Center. Loureiro was shot multiple times. He died the following morning. Now, listen carefully to what authorities determined here, because it matters. The shooter was identified as a Portuguese national named Claudio Valente. Valente was a former classmate of Loureiro's from Instituto Superior Técnico. 2 days before the Brookline shooting, Valente had carried out a mass shooting at Brown University. Authorities determined Valente was the sole perpetrator of the Loureiro killing. And on April 29, 2026, the FBI and the U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts officially concluded that the murder had, quote, no nexus to terrorism. They said that it was likely due to Valente's personal dissatisfaction with his life. That is the official finding. The federal government has formally closed the question of motive in the Loureiro case. But Loureiro's name still appears on the list circulating in congressional letters and in news reports about the broader pattern. A similar story applies to the next name. February 16, 2026, Llano, California, in the Antelope Valley. Carl Grillmeyer, 67, a Caltech astrophysicist at IPAC. Grillmeyer had worked on Hubble, on Spitzer, on WISE. He had discovered water on multiple exoplanets. He was fatally shot on the front porch of his rural home. A 29-year-old man named Freddie Snyder, who lived 2 miles away and had a history of trespassing on Grillmeyer's property, was charged with murder. Again, an arrest. An apparent personal motive. A suspect with no known nexus to foreign intelligence, classified research, or anything resembling state-sponsored activity. So why are these names still on the list? That is the central question, and we will return to it. February 27, 2026, we return now to the case we opened this episode with, William McCasland, 68 years old, a retired Air Force Major General, former commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. At the time of his disappearance, he was serving as Director of Technology at a company called Applied Technology Associates. The details of his disappearance read like a missing person's textbook of warning signs. He left behind his phone, his prescription glasses, his wearable devices. Missing from his home, his hiking boots, his wallet, a .38 caliber revolver, and a red backpack. According to family, he had told them he was experiencing mental fog. Representative Burleson, a Missouri congressman who had been one of the most vocal lawmakers on this issue, described McCasland's disappearance as, in his words, deeply concerning. Burleson referred to McCasland by a nickname, the UFO General. That nickname has a history. In 2016, an email hacked from the personal account of John Podesta, the musician and UFO researcher Tom DeLonge had written McCasland was, quote, very, very aware of classified material related to Roswell and Wright-Patterson. That is an allegation from a leaked private email. It is not a government statement. Wright-Patterson has been subject to decades of UFO-related speculation tied to the 1947 Roswell incident. The Air Force has consistently denied any extraterrestrial materials are stored there. McCasland's wife and authorities have rejected attempts to tie his disappearance to UFO lore. As of date, his case remains unsolved. And then, April 17, 2026, Union County, South Carolina. A Mooney M-20 single-engine plane crashes near Union County Airport while returning from North Carolina to Huntsville, Alabama. Aboard were James Moffat, 60, a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel, former NASA Johnson Space Center payload specialist, and a principal research engineer at the University of Alabama in Huntsville. His wife, Lisa, 61. Their sons, Andrew, 30, himself a research engineer at UAH, and William, 28. The entire family was killed. The NTSB and FAA are investigating. As of this recording, no cause has been publicly determined. It must be said clearly, no official source has linked that Moffat crash to the broader federal probe into scientist deaths. The connection is being drawn by commentators and journalists noting the Huntsville link. Eskridge died in Huntsville. LeBlanc died near Huntsville. The Moffats were returning to Huntsville. 3 of the cases, at minimum, touch Rocket City. By April 2026, the list, depending on which outlet you read, contained 10, 11, 12, or 13 names. We will tell you something the FBI has not told the public. The Bureau has never officially confirmed a specific number. Mainstream reporting has settled on 10 or 11. Some later reports cite 12 or 13 after LeBlanc and Moffat cases were added. What is verified is this. The FBI is reviewing the cases. The House Oversight Committee is demanding briefings. The White House is engaged. And federal officials, family members, and outside experts have repeatedly stated on the record that there is currently no evidence linking these cases to a part of a coordinated pattern. And now we come to the part of this story where the verified record ends and the speculation begins. If we have walked carefully through the established facts, we have noted repeatedly that arrests have been made in 2 cases, that it has been ruled that people have taken their own lives, that accidental overdoses have been determined, that a plane crash investigation is ongoing, that family members in multiple cases have publicly rejected conspiracy framing. But that is not where the public conversation has stayed. So let us examine what is being said and by whom, clearly labeled as what it is, a theory. Theory 1, Foreign Intelligence. The most prominent voice here is Chris Swecker, a former FBI assistant director who ran the Bureau's Criminal Investigative Division during his 24-year career. Swecker has stated publicly that the cases could represent, his words, modern-day espionage if they are not random acts. He told the reporters that U.S. scientists have been targeted for a long time, especially in the rocket propulsion area, by hostile foreign intelligence services. He named China as the most likely state actor. FBI Director Kash Patel himself, in announcing the investigation, said the Bureau would look for connections to foreign actors. That is an official acknowledgement that the theory is on the table. It is not, however, a finding. Theory 2, the UFO disclosure suppression theory. This is the theory promoted most aggressively by Representative Burleson and amplified across UFO-adjacent media. It holds that those who possess knowledge of an alleged legacy UFO crash retrieval program are being silenced before they can testify. The most cited case here is Matthew Sullivan, the Air Force intelligence officer who, according to anonymous sources cited by the New York Post, has personally seen UFOs in the federal government's possession. Sullivan was reportedly set to testify before Congress. He died of an accidental overdose months before that hearing. We cannot independently verify the existence of any legacy UFO crash retrieval program. That claim, in the sources reviewed, traces back to anonymous accounts relayed through media. It is an allegation. Theory 3, the Huntsville cluster. 3 of the cases touch Huntsville, Alabama. Eskridge died there. LeBlanc died there. The Moffett family was returning there. Huntsville is, by any measure, one of the most concentrated aerospace and defense research sites in America. Whether that concentration explains the cluster as a matter of statistical density or as a matter of targeting is currently unanswerable. Theory 4, the Mondaloy thread. This one is more specific. According to reporting in the Daily Mail and Pasadena Now, Monica Reza co-invented the Mondaloy superalloy at Rocketdyne. Her research was, at one point, overseen by McCaslin during his command of the Air Force Research Laboratory from 2011 to 2013. 2 names on the list: a missing JPL director and a missing Air Force general, connected through a single rocket engine material. We cannot confirm this constitutes an operational connection beyond a historical funding relationship. It is being treated by some congressional investigators as a thread worth pulling. Theory 5, apophenia. This is the theory advanced by Wikipedia editors, by medical sociologist Robert Bartholomew, by outside experts including Joseph Rogers of CSIS, Scott Rocker of the Nuclear Threat Initiative, and retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffendaffer. Apophenia is a human tendency to perceive meaningful patterns in unrelated data. The argument: across the vast scientific and defense workforce of the United States, a certain baseline of deaths, including people taking their own lives, accidents, and homicides, is statistically inevitable. Pull a list of 10 or 11, cluster them under a narrative frame, and a pattern appears. Whether it is real or imagined is a separate question. NASA, for its part, has stated, quote, "Nothing related to NASA indicates a national security threat. The National Nuclear Security Administration said it is paying attention." Theory 6, timing. Some commentators have noted that federal probe gained traction in the same political window as President Trump's public push for UFO disclosure and his order to release UFO files. Whether that is meaningful or coincidental, we do not know. Here is what we can tell you with confidence. The FBI has confirmed it is investigating. The House Oversight Committee has demanded briefings. The White House has acknowledged the review. 2 of the killings have been formally attributed to lone perpetrators with personal motives. Several deaths have been ruled self-inflicted or accidents by qualified medical examiners. Multiple families have publicly rejected conspiracy framing of their loved ones' deaths. In several cases, McCaslin, Casillas, Chavez, Garcia, Reza, remain unresolved. The list is real. The investigation is real. Whether the pattern is real, that is the question the FBI has been tasked with answering. And as of publication of this episode, they have not answered it.